Hello, Contrarians, listeners, watchers, subscribers. Here we are with another installment of Contrarians Post Credits. This one is obviously about our Tommy Boy episode. We recorded an episode about Tommy Boy, the rotten movie, according to Tomatometer. It's 42% rotten. So we said really nice things about it in Contrarians Corner, and then Real Talk. Man, I don't know that I can ever say that a Real Talk segment or a Contrarians Corner segment or an episode in general is like my favorite in a run, because that seems like, especially when we've recorded so much. But I will say that it's a very, very special Real Talk that opens with Alex just giving me a rundown of Tommy Boy's stuff that, as it connects to his life, that is, you have to listen to it. And that's as much as I'm going to tease it. Hopefully, Alex got it out of his system. So
Yeah.
now we can actually talk about the movie.
Yeah.
But we are going to give you what you know you're going to get: a few extra Rotten Tomatoes quotes, a little bit of trivia. We're going to talk about the trailer, and of course, the Josh Gad Minute, but not in that order. We are going to start, Alex, though, with the quotes, including the consensus. 42% rotten, as I said. The consensus reads, though it benefits from the comic charms of its two leads, Tommy Boy too often feels like a familiar sketch stretched thin.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know if it's a common misconception, but when you think about Chris Farley and David Spade, respectively, their most like famous SNL skits and whatnot, they're not really with one another. David Spade's there in the Matt Foley motivational speaker. But unless I'm like massively blanking on something big, they never really had like a skit where they have the dynamic that they have in this movie. So, no. You can say the premise doesn't work for you, but I think the analogy you're trying to make doesn't necessarily work here.
Would you say that that's a criticism that's levied against most SNL adjacent movies? They're like, oh, they
Oh,
just
yeah.
took a skit and they just stretched it for 90 minutes and that doesn't work.
Yes, and there are some SNL movies that are bad. And like, I have not seen it in years, decades maybe, but I remember like Superstar was so like lame. Like I thought like this is just so dumb. But even still, those are like professionally made films, and I think people who say those things have never truly watched an SNL skit completely die in front of a live audience. Because that is a completely different kind of bad, I guess you would say, altogether.
That was going to be my follow. I was like, I guess that type of criticism is also applied to just sketches by themselves. They don't even have to be movies. I mean, I've watched, I think, enough SNL to know that feeling of like, oh God, just end. And it just keeps going.
There's a skit that is kind of picked up a tad of notoriety or infamy, I guess, over the past few years, just due to things like YouTube and the accessibility of shit. It was a skit. It had to be around the time of this movie. It was before Sandler and Farley got fired, but it's Norm Macdonald, Chris Farley, Adam Sandler. Maybe Tim Meadows is in there somewhere, but it's a skit of them breaking into like the New York Zoo after hours, and they go to the polar bear exhibit, and one by one, they just like jump in with the polar bear to like play with it or do something, and then whoever jumps in gets brutally murdered by the polar bear, and like the joke is like these buckets of blood get thrown on the surviving cast members up at the top of the stage, and it comes down to like Farley and Norm, and like just the way they're talking, it's like, and they're like laughing amongst each other. In the live audience, you could hear a rat piss on cotton, dude. Like it is just dead.
Okay, good. It's not just me.
No, yeah. And like there's the part I always remember is Adam Sandler, whoever jumps in first, Chris Farley goes, oh my God, he tore his head off and threw it like so much volleyball. And Norm goes, like so much volleyball? Who are you, the almighty Thor? And they like kind of just like looking at each other, like laughing, and the audience is just like dead silence, abject silence. And so the point I'm making here is I can find things about that funny just because I kind of have spent a lifetime studying those guys and know their quirks, and like them thinking it's funny makes me think it's funny. But watching an SNL skit die a horrible death live on television is an excruciating experience that is not tantamount to like a bad movie.
Yeah, I agree. It's awful. And Tommy Boy may be many things, but it's not that. All right, let's go to the first actual quote. That's Jeff Brown from The Times UK. It says, Farley and his sidekick David Spade hail from Saturday Night Live, but this lowbrow vehicle has none of the goofy charm that made Wayne's World a viable spin-off.
Well, hold on now. Why we gotta fucking apples and oranges here, man?
Gotta compare your boys.
Wayne's World was a skit that they turned into a movie.
Yeah, it's successfully, right? I mean, it even gets the sequel. So
Wayne's World 2, the greatest comedy of all time.
Right. Put the movies aside, the plots aside, just the stars, as far as like what gets you excited. You know, Wayne and Garth versus Tommy and
Richard. There's more heart in this movie than either of the Wayne's World movies. By design, the Wayne's World movies are not meant to be like, they're not meant to have any moments where guys making podcasts 30 years later could go, you know, there's this little moment that shines through where you're like, man, he's a really good actor. That's not the purpose of those movies. So I think this movie tried more things than the Wayne's World films. Saying that, having just made my opinion, thought that Wayne's World 2 is the greatest comedy of all time.
Yeah.
But I think this movie tries more things. It asks a little bit more of the people involved. And even though, like I said, this is a Lorne Michaels produced film, it was made parallel to like their SNL careers. So if you wanted to, you could maybe throw it in the SNL pile just because of the timing and everything. But it's not the same thing. It wasn't like an idea that was transplanted over.
But you would have, I mean, obviously, because it was a skit, you would have expected when Wayne's World happens, you're like, of course, it's Dana Carvey and Mike Myers. When Tommy Boy happens, do you go, of course, it's Chris Farley and David Spade? Because you just said that they really didn't team up on
yeah, they did some stuff together, but like it could have been anybody at that point. But yeah, it's I mean, we have the benefit of hindsight now with Black Sheep, and then the rumored movies that were going to come with their pairing afterwards. But like we talked about in the episode, this is right after Happy Gilmore, so Billy Madison had already happened, and this is when we're trying stuff with these SNL ringleaders, that crop of dudes. So, and Dirty Work's not long after this. Not that was like an attempt to make Norm Macdonald a movie star. That was just a strange piece of business. But
that's Norm's House of a Thousand Corpses.
Well, to be fair, it's Bob Saget's because he was the director on that.
It's a collaboration.
Yeah.
All right, and then John A. Nesbitt from Old School Reviews says, redo it as a 10-15 minute motivational tape as a seminar for business and sales people.
I do like that. Like the idea of, Farley and Spade. Hi, I'm Saturday Night Live's Chris Farley, and today we're going to teach you the techniques of sale.
I was going to say this guy, again, Tommy Boy may be many things, but an effective training tool for salespeople, I don't see it. There's no insight into the psyche of a salesperson. Or
I honestly think the closest it comes is the scene where the guy wants the guarantee on the box, and he's just like, yeah, why did they put on the box? Because I know they sold you it was a guaranteed piece of shit. Like that's the closest like any scene in this movie comes to like someone using actual like sales tactics or negotiation.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, I agree. It would be an entertaining piece of media if you had those videos there. They should have put them on their website at the time. I have to say, because I don't know how it's going to come up later, I don't see how it could. So I want to say it here, Alex, before we move on to the trailer. David Spade, I guess I'm not too familiar with his work in the sense that if you had asked me, I wouldn't have even known that he was in SNL. Like I I guess all the big skits
Do you
that I
not know
know.
the Hollywood Minute story about Eddie Murphy, where Eddie Murphy called the studio and motherfucked him over the
Okay,
phone?
you've told
Yeah,
me that, but
yeah.
even then, it didn't like my idea is like Spade is like answering the phones or something.
He does not have that. Like, I know a lot of like the famous David Spade skits from SNL. Like, bye bye, like that. That's probably one that people would reference immediately. He does not, though, have in the public ether the Chippendales skit that Farley has, or like Lunch Ladyland, like Adam Sandler has, or these things that you are not by any means an SNL fan that I am, but when I say these things, you immediately just know, like osmosis, or like,
Right.
just through like pop culture. And also because David Spade went on to have such a just puzzling film career and stand-up career, and well, I think you would probably say you would think of him more as like the guy from Just Shoot Me than the guy from Saturday Night Live, right?
That's 100% where I was going. After we finished Tommy Boy and we recorded the episode, I was like, because minor spoiler if you haven't listened to the episode, I really like David Spade in it. I think he's really funny. I think it's one of the highlights of the movie, which I mean he should be because he's half of the movie. And so I was like, I found newfound respect for his talent, because before that, like the most recent thing I had was Black Sheep in my head, and whenever I've seen it in the Adam Sandler movies, he's in both Grown Ups. I think I mentioned that in the episode, and then
Oh, he's in all the fucking Happy Madison. He'll have like small parts, but he's in
and
all
he's
of
always
them.
kind of a version of that snarky smart ass persona, and I was like, I get it, you're David Spade, you're not funny, right? But I remember having seen him in Just Shoot Me, which was one of those shows that just played as a part of the block of comedies that they had in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I was like, I wonder if it's streaming anywhere. It's on Hulu. They have the entire show, the all 7 or 8 seasons. And I was like, how about I just, instead of putting Suits on to fall asleep to, I'm going to put Just Shoot Me. And Alex, I don't know when was the last time you watched an episode of Just Shoot Me, but it's a pretty
It's
funny
funny.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. It doesn't have the, I mean, I guess David Spade's like the biggest star in it. Like, I don't know if at the time, but definitely now. Like Enrico Colantoni is, he's Veronica Mars's dad, and he's kind of like he's a dad guy.
Yeah.
Then what's the name of Nina? We just saw her in Confessions of a Shopaholic, and we both called her out. But that's
right.
again, she shows up, and then the guy, the dad. I mean, he's also, I guess they're Laura San Giacomo, Sex Lies and Videotape, and she's in other movies. But really, I think that the closest you would get to somebody that was kind of a pop icon was David Spade, right? That was, and he's really funny, man. He's not like he's playing widely differently like notes than what he does in most David Spade characters that I've seen, but it's so honed in to his type of humor. Like every line they give him and the way he delivers them and the way he plays off everybody else in the cast. I know you're here to listen to us talk about Tommy Boy, but I implore you, because it's such an old show by now, but if you haven't seen Just Shoot Me and you like David Spade, you need to watch Just Shoot Me, because
Isn't like Brian Posehn's the male guy in The Office, right?
who?
Brian Posehn, that big like lumbering comedian with the glasses and stuff. I
In
thought he
the
was.
in the Just Shoot Me office?
Yeah, I think he's like the male guy.
Maybe I just haven't, because Hulu has the autoplay, so I've just been falling
Oh,
asleep, and then I wake up
yeah.
and it's like a season later, and and
I
they're so
wake up
funny.
and then it's 9/11.
Oh God. Anyway, minor offshoot, but kind of related. David Spade is funny in Just Shoot Me, just as he's funny in Tommy Boy, and just as he's not really that funny in other things.
Yeah, that's as you know, I'm a big Joe Dirt fan, and I just looked it up. 9%. So coming soon to the Contrarians. That's like the one movie I can think of, or one thing he did where he's not David Spade. He's not.
But does it work? Oh, you're like, please go back to being David Spade.
Joe Dirt is awesome, sir.
All right.
We can't celebrate it any longer due to the politics of the world, but Kid Rock is actually really funny in that movie.
All right, let's move on to the trailer before things get grimmer. Trailer chatter, Alex. You know this movie front and back,
Page
upside
and
down.
verse. Yep.
Yeah. So the way that you judge this trailer will probably be different than mine, right? I watch this and like, okay, is it selling me the right movie? But when you watch this trailer, you probably see it as like, is it a good representation of the highlights of the movie?
It's pretty interesting because this movie, the trailer sells you a different movie than what you actually get. It basically it tells you it's going to be a road trip movie, but the way the trailer frames it is that, you know, Brian Dennehy sends Tommy and Richard on assignment to go like sell brake pads on the road, which obviously that is not the case, and they don't at all establish the stakes or even imply that Bo Derek is bad.
Nope.
And then we only get one shot of Rob Lowe. Of course, it's
At the very end.
Yeah, it's. Did you eat a lot of paint chips as a kid? Very 90s comedy trailer where a new song starts every fucking 7 seconds.
And they're all in the movie.
Yeah, well, except for Maniac. That's at the end just because that's Farley singing it to himself.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
The yes, they skip over the tragedy of Brian Dennehy. I thought that you could connect the dots.
Which happens in the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yes. If you wanted to, maybe you could rationalize watching the trailer like, oh, he's going to get married, which means that he's going to retire, which means that he's going to leave the business to Tommy because they're doing these titles and they're like college graduate, favorite son, president of the company. Like,
it's pretty funny. Yeah, they use the clips of him around the office, and that like in total are all the clips in the movie of him in the office.
Yes.
They make you think that it's like this, big type scenario where he becomes like the hot shot at the office, but it's really just all of the scenes that are actually in the movie.
Yep. Yeah. But that said, it does capture that the movie is mainly going to be just what happens between him and David Spade.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on the road, and you see some of the famous gags. Are you mad that they kind of they spoiled the big door reveal?
Yeah, a little bit. That's one of our favorite parts in the movie collectively, and so could have done without that, as is actually quoted in the movie. But it's a good payoff because also they don't show that they save like the best part for the film, which is David Spade having it out with the gas station attendee, and you see in the background Farley like scrambling, like not knowing what to do.
They do get a lot of those lines that you call out in the episode as being transcendental quotes from Tommy Boy, because he gets the holy Nikes? Yeah, he gets that's gonna leave a mark, and he gets the son of he gets there's like 5 that are
what'd you do?
Yeah, there's that one. So I mean, they're really milking the Farliness of it. There's about 20 seconds that's just him and David Spade screaming in the car. Like 90s comedy. My favorite bit, and I didn't call it out in the episode, we just kind of skipped past it, is the thing with the tie, which is amazing delivery from David Spade, even though it is just typical delivery from David Spade when he pulls it out, he's like, it's a clip on. It's like, are you sure? I said it in the episode, Alex, and I think this is where we would bring it up. Seeing how, even in the trailer form, like in this condensed version, you can see the magic popping between these two. One, can you imagine the version of Almost Heroes that stars David Spade instead of Matthew Perry?
Man, I can. I hope, though,
do you want to?
No. Like, if it was made the way that movie was made, with Farley in as bad a shape as he was in, I think that movie would have come off even more depressing than it does now, even with like Matthew Perry. I think there's I don't know. that movie, I find parts of it funny, but it's also it's not like it's a good script that just like what went wrong. So I don't know if it would have been the big redemptive piece of art following Black Sheep if they were both in there. But I like to be optimistic and think there is a timeline somewhere somehow where that movie is pulled off with Spade and Farley in the lead and it works.
Well, I guess, and that was the second question. I was like, well, it doesn't have to be Almost Heroes, right? I think that anybody that likes Tommy Boy and doesn't like Black Sheep wishes that there was a third one that, like you said, gives him the redemption. I mean, I can tell you, I wouldn't want to see Almost Heroes. Any permutation of Almost Heroes, I don't see how that works. You would have to completely change the movie, change the script, and everything. So if I'm gonna have another Farley Spade collab, then I just want it to be something different. I wouldn't want them to do another road trip, right? Like there is, I think it was at the end of the Fugitive, or maybe we were not recording anymore when you were talking about, we're going to Tommy Boy, and you're like, they had it, they already pulled it off, and then they did Black Sheep, which is not what you would think. It's like you got it right with Tommy Boy, and somehow you get it wrong with Black Sheep. But what does that mean? Getting it right with Tommy Boy, like, would you do another like road movie? That's the thing, or what do you do? We joked about them being swapping places with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. It's like, do you have the big cop action movie with Farley and Spade?
That dude, there's probably some smoke to that fire of they're like partner, like Farley is the dumb cop that like falls over and fucking chases and stuff. That there's probably some meat on that bone. I think. Yeah, it would have had to have been some kind of like bumbling idiot duo, or you never know. You remake Some Like It Hot with Farley and Spade. Get late 90s? Get Pam Anderson in there, the Marilyn Monroe.
Oh my God.
Barbed Wire.
Barbed Wire, Pam Anderson. All right, I'm sold. Let us
also
know.
I do need to call out real quick though that it was necessary and will always have been necessary that Matthew Perry was in Almost Heroes, because I'm pretty sure that sequence is what led to him hosting Saturday Night Live when Oasis was the musical guest and they fucking hated each other, and that was great.
So you're saying is like this timeline is a correct timeline?
Parts of it, yes.
Parts of it, yes. All right. Well, enough with the trailer chatter. Before we go to trivia, Alex, let's do the Josh Gad Minute. Josh Gad would fit anywhere in this movie. That's my initial feeling, my gut reaction, is that this movie is tailor-made for Josh Gad to take over. So where do you put him?
So yes, there's obviously you can take Gad and put him in either of the lead roles. He could be a bit of a doofus like Tommy, or like a really pedantic asshole like Richard. But we don't want to do that. You can put him in the Paul role, the Rob Lowe role, and get fucking Josh Gad making out with Bo Derek. You could give him like a small part as just one of the people he runs into. He could be the gas station attendee that has the like really smarmy back and forth with Spade. I think there's some fun there. My vote though, and this does kind of compromise some of the praise we give in the episode. I'm specifically watching it through 2025 lenses, very over the moon about one monologue this guy gets. But you could have Dan Aykroyd sit this one out, and Josh Gad actually plays Ray Zelinsky, and he's revealed as like the big mogul of the brake pad empire.
That's the right call. I can go wilder with it. You could age him, and he could be Brian Dennehy. He could be Chris Farley. But really, you're right. I mean, you can get Dan Aykroyd out because that's a stunt casting, right? Like Dan Aykroyd there, and it works. But I think Josh Gad could have fun with that, with those monologues, and also with the flirtation with Bo Derek towards the end. That would be fun. There is no point in replacing either Farley or Spade. That's as much as we like to play around. Like those are untouchable in this movie. Black Sheep, completely different story. Have Gad replace both of them. But yeah, no, I agree. It's Dan Aykroyd hits the road and Josh Gad takes over. So that takes care of the Josh Gad Minute. Alex, let's go to trivia.
All right, so Tommy Boy was released on March 31st of 1995. Just not too long ago, celebrated its 30th anniversary. Budget of $20 million, a box office return of a little shy of $33 million. So at the box office, didn't set the world on fire. I would be curious what the home video numbers were for that, because this movie has obviously become, I'd say in the episode, Dumb and Dumber made over $200 million. And you would think by the legacy Tommy Boy has with people of, my and Julio's age range, that it was a movie that made $200 million. Not the case, but it became a sensation on home video. We talk about in the episode, Rob Lowe is uncredited in this movie. If you want to know why, you know where to go. And one of the things I wanted to talk about briefly here was our boy, our patron saint, Roger Ebert, did not like this movie. He did not like Chris Farley in general. Didn't think he was funny. Ebert gave the film 1 star out of 4, writing that Tommy Boy is one of those movies that plays like an explosion down at the screenplay factory. You can almost picture a bewildered office boy, his face smudged with soot, wandering through the ruins and rescuing pages at random. Too bad they didn't mail them to the insurance company instead of filming them. And it ended up on his most hated list.
Roger Ebert had a way with words, just so you know.
He was a writer, that's for sure. Look, I think the most common one that comes up all the time is The Master, is a movie that you and I both like genuinely hold and regard as like one of the greatest films we've ever seen, that he really disliked. And it's like the one time I was the furthest away from him. And I make a habit of joking about his reviews of the Friday the 13th franchise and how hilarious I find them. So much so that one of the DVD releases, the folks at Paramount had such a good sense of humor that they included the segment from At the Movies where Ebert's just fucking got a hatchet out and just going to town on the movie. That kind of I would like Ebert, because he's also talked about comedies like, he gave a good review to the first Jackass movie. He gave it a thumbs up and said he enjoyed it and whatnot. And it's like a bummer to know that he, like, I wouldn't, like, in my imagination somewhere, I want to like sit in a theater with Roger Ebert and we're laughing at Chris Farley like ripping a car door off and stuff. But it's one thing he was never, like, you never could get confused about with Roger Ebert, though, was what he liked and what he didn't like. And it doesn't surprise me he had no time for this, but that's just always. And he gave an even more excorious review to Black Sheep.
I mean, that's not a surprise.
No, it's not. But I think that's to me at least, it's always kind of part of the story with these movies was Ebert hated them. And I know that's not how normal people think, but that's how I think. So I did want to kind of circle back to that. Now I'm questioning myself. Was it Jackass? I can't. There have been like really dumb comedies that he's enjoyed before. So, but also knowing enough about, and reading his writings to know, I'm sure he audibly groaned or folded his arms at the parts in this movie where it's like asking its audience to have like an emotional reaction to something. He's like, oh, fuck this. Yeah, so don't come after me if it wasn't Jackass, but I was thinking of something.
I can just picture just Ebert. Brian Dennehy, great actor, one of our best, is reduced to a humiliating dance number in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Is this where we're at? Brian Dennehy, yeah. All right, reason for the season, my friends, the MTV Movie Awards, 1996, hosted by Ben Stiller and Janine Garofalo, taking place at the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, California, June 8th of 1996. Our musical performances, Whitney Houston, Why Does It Hurt So Bad? Garbage, Only Happy When It Rains. Roberta Flack and the Fugees, Killing Me Softly, that fucking rules. And then Adam Sandler performed something called Mel Gibson, which
What?
Now we gotta track it down.
Is it just like a racist tirade?
Well, it was 96. Was Mel out of public favor yet? We hadn't heard his voicemails quite yet.
That's true.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he was always pretty anti-Semitic, but I don't know if it had bled through yet. The golden popcorn that this movie took home. Do you remember it, Julio? The award was a popcorn bucket with the golden popcorn.
I had to look it up because when I was telling Corey, our video editor and friend, about this project, he asked me, he's like, which one's that? Is that the popcorn bucket or the astronaut? And I was like, oh, I have to look it up now. And it's the popcorn bucket. The astronaut was for the music video awards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so Farley and Spade took home the Best On-Screen Duo Award, beating out again the wide net that was cast with these award shows. The Academy could take a note from. They beat out Martin Lawrence and Will Smith for Bad Boys, Ice Cube and Chris Tucker for Friday, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman for Seven, and Tom Hanks and Tim Allen for Toy Story. Farley sadly did not take home the Best Comedic Performance Award. That went to Jim Carrey for Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. Just curious, how much movie? Yep, there you go. $200 million is what that made.
That's the second one, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah.
Farley was nominated alongside Adam Sandler for Happy Gilmore, Chris Tucker for Friday, Smokey, and Alicia Silverstone for Clueless. Elsewhere, little fascinating tidbit. The award for Best New Filmmaker went to Wes Anderson for Bottle Rocket, which is an absolutely fantastic film.
There's a circle of, Alex and I, and where we intersect when it comes to Wes Anderson. Like Bottle Rocket and Rushmore, right?
It's like the sliver. Yeah, it's the piece of pizza that no one takes because it's so small. The Lifetime Achievement Award that year, Julio, went to Godzilla, in keeping with what will become our habit of mentioning who took home that award. And Tommy Boy wasn't in the running for Best Movie, but while we're here, we'll go ahead and cover it. It was Seven that took that home, beating out Apollo 13, Braveheart, Clueless, and Dangerous Minds.
Man,
what a lineup!
Okay, so Braveheart. So Mel Gibson was probably in the audience. I mean, I know that not everybody attends these.
He never had a good enough sense of humor about himself. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, at that time, maybe.
Yeah, that's it won Best Picture, right?
Yeah, Braveheart did. Do you remember George Lucas attended the year that they gave Phantom Menace some award?
The movie awards?
The MTV Movie Awards. Yeah. So, I mean, George Lucas is not too good for the MTV Movie Awards.
Woody Allen, famously would never go except for the one after 9/11. Did not anticipate making two 9/11 jokes in this recording here. But, let's see here. Oh, we have our presenters. So the pair that presented the Best On-Screen Duo Awards, dude, Vanessa Williams and Lawrence Fishburne conceivably handed an award to Chris Farley and David Spade.
Why were they in a movie together, or was that two separate things? Fishburne was probably because of What's Love Got to Do with It, right? I feel like that's...
I guess I don't know. See, and this is what we've lost as a society. The Best Kiss Award was presented by Kiss, the band.
Okay, you can only do that once. Either you only do it once or you do it every year.
And Patrick Stewart presented the Lifetime Achievement Award to Godzilla. Man, lost a lot. We're here already. So what was the Best Kiss? It wasn't Tobey Maguire. We had to wait a few years for that. Best Kiss was Natasha Henstridge and Anthony Guerra in Species.
She probably kills him right after.
Yeah. Hell of a lineup. So for the Rotten rating and some of the titans of the film critic industry making their thoughts very well known, took home a little bit of gold from MTV and has a place in the hearts of a lot of people that I know and a lot of people that were fortunate enough to either rent this or their cousin showed it to them or something like that. It's a special movie to people like myself, and I think a lot of people in my age range. And I think we do a good job of conveying the reasons for that in the actual episode. So be sure to check it out.
Even if you have watched Black Sheep and you didn't like it.
Till the bitter end, Julio will make sure it's known that Black Sheep sucks.
We've watched worse movies, but in the context of this conversation, it's, directly tied in. So, watch Tommy Boy, give it a whirl, and then listen to the episode if you haven't already. Coming up next, we continue the next MTV Movie Award nominee / winner, My Cousin Vinny, which I've never seen. Alex might have seen a long, long time ago, but we all know what that's famous for. I mean, that's much like with The Fugitive, which was our previous movie. There's another Oscars MTV Movie Awards intersection. Mm-hmm. Just share space in that the performer in that space is Marissa Tomei, won Best Actress and also I think it's Best Breakthrough Performance for the MTV Movie Awards. So this is after Oscar, right? I would have called her the breakthrough in Oscar.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, Oscar was
1990?
91.
91, all right.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say 89. We were both wrong, but yeah.
All right, well, we did an episode on Oscar. Watch it, listen to it. But My Cousin Vinny is...
Don't watch it.
I mean, maybe we'll convince you. But as far as this one, should be pretty easy to find. The Karate Kid is one of the main characters.
Ralph Macchio?
Yeah, and then the cousin is Joe Pesci, which, I mean, what else do you need to hear to be sold on watching this movie? And then come back, it's fresh, so we're going to be picking it apart and then, giving you our real thoughts. But until then, thank you for watching, for listening, for subscribing, and we'll talk to you again soon.